During the session, trust your gut. If something feels off, close the session immediately. You are in control. You can stop at any time. The tool does not control you.
Hi, I'm Ashley, and welcome to the Big Crystal Energy Podcast. This is a place for the crystal curious, arcane-minded, and everything in the in-between. In this podcast, we will jump down the rabbit hole into the metaphysical, esoteric, occult, and spiritual realms. Nothing is off limits. I'm a mom, wife, an orthopedic physician assistant by day, and a seeker of all things spooky and kooky by night. I've spent my entire career in the medical field, but have always felt like there is more out there, and this is where we will explore together. We will have conversations with crystal healers, rock hounds, artists, musicians, spiritual coaches, magic makers, and anything woo-woo that strikes our fancy. Let's take our spiritual journey to the next level. So grab a crystal, pour a cup of tea. It's time to feel the big crystal energy.
Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine a dimly lit room, candles flickering, and there on a velvet cloth sits a crystal sphere, perfectly round, perfectly clear, catching the light like it's holding 1,000 tiny stars inside. A figure leans in close, gazing into its depths, hands hovering near but never quite touching. The surface begins to cloud, mist swirls within, and then visions, symbols, messages from beyond the veil. This isn't just movie magic. This isn't Hollywood fantasy. This is scrying, one of the oldest, most powerful, and most iconic forms of divination humanity has ever practiced. And today, we're finally talking about it. Welcome to Big Crystal Energy. I'm Ashley, and I have to tell you, this is the episode. The one I have been dreaming of since I started doing this podcast. I mean, come on. Nothing has more big crystal energy than a huge clear quartz crystal ball. It's the ultimate symbol, the archetype. When people think crystal magic, when they picture a fortune teller, a mystic, a witch, this is what they see. The crystal ball is the icon. So the fact that we're finally here, finally diving deep into scrying and everything it encompasses, this feels like coming home. This feels like the episode Big Crystal Energy was always meant to have. This is personal for me. I grew up with a crystal ball in my house. This particular one right here, if you're watching on YouTube. I remember being a kid and just staring at it, fascinated, drawn to it in this way I couldn't explain. It felt like it held secrets. Like if I just looked long enough or in the right way, I'd see something, but I never knew quite how to use it. No one taught me. It just sat there on my shelf, full of mystery and potential, and I'd walk by it and wonder. You couldn't really get books on it back in the day. There was no internet when I was a kid, and now here I am years later, an adult practitioner, building my own magical practice, and that crystal ball is still with me. And I also have this absolutely beautiful obsidian mirror that I've been drawn to. And both of them, they've been patiently waiting for me to finally learn this practice, to unlock what they can show me. So this episode isn't just about teaching you how to scry, though we're absolutely going to cover that in detail. This is also about me finally honoring this calling I've felt since childhood And if you've ever felt drawn to scrying, if you have a crystal ball sitting somewhere in your home that you don't quite know how to use, or if you've always been curious about this practice, then you're in the right place. Today, we are going deep. We're talking about what scrying actually is and why it works. We're traveling back thousands of years to explore the fascinating history of this practice, from ancient Egyptian priests to Renaissance scholars. We're going back to talk about John Dee and his legendary crystal ball that you can still see in the British Museum today. We'll explore all the different tools you can use for scrying. Crystal ball, yes, of course, but also obsidian mirrors, regular mirrors, bowls of water, even candle flames. We're going to discuss how scrying shows up in modern witchcraft and why contemporary practitioners are drawn to this ancient art. And then most importantly, we're going to walk through exactly how to scry, the practical steps, what to expect, what is the best setting, how to prepare, how to actually do it, and how to stay safe while you're practicing. Because here's the thing, scrying isn't just visually iconic. It's not just the crystal ball aesthetic. This is a real, powerful divination practice that has been used for millennia to access hidden knowledge, communicate with spirits, explore the subconscious, and peer beyond the veil of ordinary reality. Whether you're a complete beginner who's never tried any form of divination or an experienced practitioner looking to add scrying to your magical toolkit, this episode has something for you. I'm approaching this as someone who's right there with you, ready to finally step into this practice fully. So light a candle if you would like, get comfortable, and let's talk about scrying. Let's talk about crystal balls and obsidian mirrors and gazing into the depths to find what's hidden. Let's talk about looking through the veil. And let's start at the beginning. What is scrying exactly? Scrying derives from descry, meaning to make out dimly or to reveal. The practice of gazing into a reflective, translucent, or luminous surface to receive visions, messages, or spiritual insights. It works by entering a light trance state, and the reflective surface becomes a doorway between worlds. Why does this feel iconic? Well, it's the visual archetype, the crystal ball, the fortune teller. It appears in mythology, folklore, fairy tales. It's in famous movies such as The Wizard of Oz, Labyrinth, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It combines many elements such as meditation, intuition, and symbolic interpretation. The gazing into the unknown metaphor is made literal. So what is the history of scrying? So now that we know what scrying is and why it feels so iconic, let's travel back in time. Because scrying isn't some new age invention. This practice has roots that go back thousands of years, spanning continents and cultures. And what's fascinating is that humans across the world independently came to the same conclusion that gazing into reflective surfaces could unlock hidden knowledge and glimpse beyond the veil. The earliest evidence of scrying takes us back to ancient civilizations. In Egypt, priests would divine the future by gazing into pools of ink or the flickering light of oil lamps. Imagine being in a temple at night, the air thick with incense, a priest leaning over a bowl of black liquid, watching for visions to form in its depths. This wasn't considered superstition. This was considered like a sacred technology. The ancient Greeks took scrying seriously too. They practiced what they called that's mirror divination, at temples dedicated to various gods. polished bronze or silver mirrors would be used in religious ceremonies, and the visions seen were believed to be messages directly from the divine. And in ancient Persia, the magi, yes, those magi, the priest astrologers, used ceremonial bowls filled with water for scrying. These weren't random folk practices. These were sophisticated spiritual systems used by the educated and powerful elite of their societies. What this tells us is that for millennia, across multiple civilizations that had no contact with each other, humans looked at reflective surfaces and said, "There's something here. There's a doorway." That's not coincidence. That's something fundamental about human consciousness and how we access the unseen. Now, let's fast forward to medieval and Renaissance Europe, because this is when scrying really hits its peak in the Western world. This was the golden age of scrying, and crystal balls became the tool of choice among nobility, scholars, and spiritual seekers. Here's what's important to understand. In this era, scrying wasn't viewed as witchcraft in the negative sense, or as mere superstition. It was considered a legitimate form of spiritual inquiry. Court advisors used it. Scholars studied it. It was part of the intellectual and spiritual landscape of the time, sitting right alongside astronomy, mathematics, and theology. Crystal spheres in particular became associated with seers and wise advisors. Having someone at court who could scry was like having an intelligence officer. They were valued for their ability to perceive hidden information and potential futures. The practice was respected, even if it was also mysterious. And this brings us to one of the most famous scryers in history, and honestly, one of my favorite historical figures, John Dee. So who was John Dee? He was an Elizabethan polymath, mathematician, astronomer, astrologer, and one of the most learned men of the 16th century. He advised Queen Elizabeth I herself. This was not some charlatan or carnival fortune teller. This was a brilliant Renaissance mind who had one foot in science and one foot in magic, which at that time weren't considered opposites at all. Dee was deeply committed to what he called angelic conversations. He believed that through scrying, he could communicate directly with angels and receive divine knowledge that would unlock the secrets of the universe. And to do this, he used a crystal ball that has become absolutely legendary. The crystal itself is made of smoky quartz, and it's about the size of a grapefruit. So substantial, but not enormous. What I love about this is that it's real. It exists. You can actually go see it at the British Museum in London, along with Dee's obsidian scrying mirror. These objects have survived over 400 years, and there's something profound about that. Imagine all the visions that crystal has witnessed. Imagine the weight of its history. Here's how Dee worked. He didn't scry himself. Instead, he employed a scryer named Edward Kelly. Kelly would gaze into the crystal ball and describe the visions he saw. Angels, symbols, entire alphabets of angelic language, and Dee would sit beside him, meticulously recording everything. They documented their sessions with incredible detail. Dee took his work seriously. He saw it as spiritual research, as unlocking divine wisdom. Now, were Kelly's visions real? Was he actually talking to angels, or was something else happening? That's the mystery, isn't it? What we know for certain is that these sessions produced volumes of material. And Dee, one of the great minds of his era, believed absolutely in the validity of what was coming through the crystal. The legend of Dee's crystal ball tells us something crucial. Even in an age of emerging science and reason, scrying was practiced by people at the highest levels of intellect and society. It wasn't dismissed as foolishness. It was spiritual technology, taken as seriously as any other form of inquiry. Now, Dee's story is European, but scrying wasn't limited to one part of the world. Let me give you a quick tour of how widespread this practice was, because it really drives home how universal this human impulse is. Ancient Egyptians, as I mentioned, used pools of ink, dark, reflective surfaces that created that void-like quality we associate with scrying. Greek temples incorporated mirror divination into religious rites, believing the gods could communicate through reflective surfaces. In Persia, ceremonial vessels filled with water were used by priestly class for divination. Again, this wasn't folk magic. This was official religious practice. Medieval European cunning folk, the village healers, and the wise people often used simple water bowls for scrying. This made the practice accessible to everyday people, not just the wealthy who could afford crystal spheres. The point is, scrying shows up everywhere. Different tools, different cultural contexts, but the same fundamental practice. Humans across the globe, across time, independently discovered that gazing into reflective surfaces opened doorways to hidden knowledge. That's not coincidence. That's us tapping into something real about consciousness, about perception, about the nature of reality itself. Okay, so we've established that scrying has this long respected history, but then something shifted. Let's talk about Victorian era and how scrying got, kind of cheapened in popular imagination. During the Victorian period, there was this explosion in spiritualism and the occult. But it also became commercialized and sensationalized. The magic of the fortune teller with a crystal ball became a fixture. Think carnival sideshows, mystic parlors, and mysterious gypsy stereotype. And look, I'm not here to judge how people made a living, obviously, but what happened was that scrying became associated with entertainment and performance rather than serious spiritual practice. Pop culture ran with this image. Every fortune teller in movies and TV had a crystal ball. It became a visual shorthand of mystical or magical, but in a way that was often played for laughs or treated as obvious fakery. The crystal ball became a prop, a costume piece. And this did two things. It popularized scrying. It made it recognizable to everyone, but it also trivialized it. It became harder to talk about scrying as a legitimate spiritual practice because people had these ingrained associations with carnival acts and readers. But here's what I want you to remember. That popularization, that stereotype is only about 150 years old. The actual practice of scrying, thousands of years old, practiced by priests, by scholars, by spiritual seekers across the globe. The Victorian fortune teller aesthetic is a tiny blip in the vast history of scrying. So when we reclaim scrying in modern witchcraft, we're not playing into a stereotype. We're reaching back past that stereotype to something much older, much deeper, and much more powerful. And that brings us right into the tools themselves. Because while the crystal ball might be the most iconic, it is far from the only way to scry. Let's talk about all the different surfaces and methods you can use. So we have the crystal ball, crystallomancy. It's a traditional clear quartz or leaded glass sphere. It does not have to be huge. It could just be, palm size like the one I have here. Why does it work? You have depth, you have internal fractures, you have light play. Other options, if you don't have a clear quartz sphere, you could use smoky quartz, amethyst, obsidian spheres. And, this particular one is the one that I have from when I was a child. My dad got it for me from a magical shop in Omaha, Nebraska. Unfortunately, that shop does not still exist today. Obsidian mirrors, like the one that I have here, which I got from the Sword and the Rose in San Francisco, which is this incredible occult shop in the city. It has a highly reflective black surface. It creates that void-like depth. I love that mirror so much. I love it because I got it from such a special place. I love how beautiful it is. I love how small it is. And I feel such a connection to it. It's hard to really explain why. It has this incredible connection to shadow work and these underworld energies. You can have either the polished obsidian, or you can just have a black mirror. You could paint a mirror black with, just paint, like a shiny gloss paint. You could also use a traditional mirror, and you could paint the back of the glass, or you could paint the back of a piece of glass black. You could use the regular mirror and just lower the light. Or you could take the mirror outside and charge it under the moonlight. This might be easier for beginners who don't have these specific tools. There's also water scrying, also known as hydromancy. It's a very accessible form. You just need a dark bowl and water. You could add ink or oil for a darker surface. You could use moon water. You could go out under the full moon with your bowl of water and use the moon's reflection to help with your scrying. That's both ancient and primal. It's connected to the thought of like sacred wells and pools. There's also fire and candle scrying, also known as pyromancy. You can gaze into the flames or coals. It's more active and dynamic than other methods. It's good for those who struggle with stillness. Me. And the smoke patterns can also be read as well. Other methods are coffee grounds in a cup, interpreting their patterns. You can do cloud scrying. You could look at like other shiny stone surfaces, anything reflective that has some type of depth. So how do you choose what you're going to work with? Well, what are you drawn to aesthetically? That could be one thing. What is your intention? The clear quartz is often associated with clarity. Obsidian is more associated with shadow work. Water is for emotions. And then you also have to consider your budget and the accessibility you have to these different tools. Not one tool is better than the other. So don't get it wrong. Like if you can't go out and afford a big, expensive crystal sphere, because that could be very expensive, or sometimes even the obsidian mirrors can be a little bit pricey, that is not a better tool than just going into your kitchen and getting a dark bowl and putting water in it. It depends really on what you prefer. So the contemporary applications of scrying are things such as shadow work and subconscious exploration. You can use it to connect with spirit guides and ancestors. It's great for divination and decision making. It's also helpful to aid in your meditation and trance work. It's a great path work for astral travel. It's kind of like a launching point for that. And there's many reasons why modern practitioners choose scrying. Number one, it's intuitive and open-ended. Unlike tarot or runes, there's no fixed symbolism. It's purely personal. There's a meditative quality. It builds focus and psychic awareness. There's an aesthetic appeal. It's like you have the beautiful tools that enhance altar spaces. There's the historical connection. It links modern practice to ancient lineages, and then it complements other practices because it can be used alongside tarot and astrology and all of these other forms of divination. There's differences from historical practice. This modern scrying is there's less focus on fortune telling, and it's more all about personal insight. It's very much integrated with psychology and shadow work. It's often a solitary practice rather than performance-based, and it has emphasis on your personal gnosis over like external validation. It's more about what you think rather than what other people confirm to you. And my journey is that it's something that I've always been interested in developing for myself. It's something that's always been on the bookshelf, which is kind of waiting for me to pick up. My crystal ball, which I was able to pull out of storage last summer. I wasn't really 100% sure where it was, but I was so excited when I was at my mom's house and I opened a box and there it was, but it was extremely dusty. And I was just so excited to see it because I hadn't seen it in such a long time. What do I hope to discover as I continue develop a scrying practice? I think my goals are just to reach into my soul a little bit more, to fully embrace and discover who I am, to just connect more with this magical side of myself. I think those are my main things that I want to accomplish. All right. So, how do you actually scry? What do you do? How does this work? Number one, you want to prepare and set up your space. So, your physical space. You could use either dim lighting, or you could use candlelight, or just some sort of low set lamp. You want to have a place where you can be seated comfortably, where you can be still. You want to minimize distractions. You want to turn your phone off. You want to close the door. You want to maybe do it after your children go to bed. Any way that you can decrease distractions, because those can knock you out of your state very quickly. And then you want to consider if you want to do it in your altar space or a sacred space. For me, this room that I'm in right now is really my sacred space. It's my office. It's supposed to be a guest room, but there's no way anyone could sleep in here because the bed is covered in 5 million things. You want to energetically prepare before you scry. What does that mean? That includes cleansing your space. You could use any different method of cleansing that you prefer, whether that is a smoke cleansing with incense or some sort of dried herb. You could use not a clown. Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, if you're into clowns, you could have a clown come over and laugh. I don't know. You could use sound clearing, where you have like a singing bowl and you tap on it, or you could even just ring a bell, or you can just gently blow on your space and set an intention. You will also want to cleanse your scrying tool at the same time. And then you will want to ground yourself and center yourself. Depending on how you practice, you could cast a circle of protection. You could call corners. Whatever your practice is, that's optional. And you want to set a clear intention for that session. What do I need to see? Or I open myself to receive messages. Or is there something that you want an answer to? Just set that intention. So the scrying process is, there are steps. And I think that makes it a little bit easier because you don't just sit down and just start staring at the crystal ball and then expect all this stuff to happen. So step one, you'll want to settle in, get comfortable. You want to have you want to sit up, you want your back straight, relaxed. You don't want to be too rigid. You want to position whatever tool it is that you're using, whether you're using a bowl of water, a crystal ball, a scrying mirror, you're going to want to position it in a comfortable place in front of you. And you just want to have a soft focus. You don't want to stare at the tool overly intensely. And then you just want to start taking some deep breaths. Maybe you want to have a candle burning near you so that there you have like that reflection of the candle off of the surface of the mirror or the crystal ball. And then you'll want to kind of set yourself into like a light trance state. And this will take maybe 5 to 10 minutes to get into that space. So you want to gaze into the surface without straining, without forcing. You want to let your eyes relax, maybe even go slightly unfocused. Notice your breathing, slow. You might feel floaty or disconnected. This is what we consider like the scrying gaze, this liminal space between waking and dreaming. And so once you feel like you're in that space, then you want to start watching for images. You may start seeing like a mist or a cloudiness or a darkening of the surface. That may be a first sign. And then you might start seeing symbols or faces or scenes may emerge. These could be literal things that you're seeing or impressions or feelings. You may see these things like in your mind's eye rather than physically on the tool. And the main thing is you can't force it. You just have to allow it to come. What you might experience. Visually, you may see symbols, colors, faces, landscapes, different scenes. Sensory, you may experience different feelings, emotions, physical sensations. Auditory, you may hear different words, sounds, messages. And you may have like a knowing. You may have sudden insights without seeing anything. You may just know something is going on. And to close the session, when you feel complete, I would say no more than 20 to 30 minutes maximum for this. You want to thank your guides or your spirits or whoever you're working with. You want to ground yourself. You want to make sure that your feet are touching the earth. You might want to stomp on the ground, whatever it takes to make you feel grounded with the earth. You'll want to do another quick cleansing of your tool and your space. And then you'll want to cover or put away your scrying tool or put it back on your altar or whatnot. And immediately after you finish, you want to do some journaling as to what you experienced. And don't worry if the messages that come through seem random or unclear. You may have patterns that will emerge over time. And if you have any symbols or anything that you want to sketch or draw out, go ahead and do that. Now, here are some common things that may occur. I don't see anything. Totally normal, especially at first. It may take several sessions to enter a trance state, especially if you've never tried doing that before. Maybe try a different time of day. Maybe try a different tool. Some people are more clairaudient or clairsentient. Certain senses will come through more strongly for certain people. Next thing, I fell asleep. Maybe you were just too relaxed or too tired. Try sitting more upright. Maybe shorten your session. Maybe practice at a different time of the day. Another thing we hear is it felt scary or overwhelming. Make sure that you're grounding before and after. You might want to strengthen your protective practices. You might want to do a shorter session. You want to make sure that you're in a good mental or emotional state before you even begin. And that can be big. So, here are some spiritual safety practices. Before you scry, protection is essential. You may want to cast a circle. You may want to call on your guides or use a protective visualization. Like I said before, cleanse your space and your tools, smoke cleansing, sound, or intention setting. State your intentions clearly. I only invite messages for my highest good, or only beings of light may communicate. Check your mental state. Don't scry when you are emotionally vulnerable or anxious or in some sort of crisis. That is not the best time. And never scry under the influence. Your discernment is compromised. So don't be out drinking with friends and then all of a sudden get this idea that you need some sort of question answered, and then you go to your crystal ball and you're like drunk. You're not going to get clear answers. I mean, you might get some answer, but that may not be the correct answer. During the session, trust your gut. If something feels off, close the session immediately. You are in control. You can stop at any time. The tool does not control you. Set boundaries. You don't have to engage with every energy that appears. If something doesn't feel right, then step away. And stay grounded. Keep one hand on the earth or the floor if you feel too floaty. After scrying, always ground. Eat something. Touch the earth. Stomp your feet. Drink some water. Close your circle. Protect yourself. Don't leave energetic doors open. Cleanse again. Cleanse your tool. Cleanse your space. You start journaling, but don't obsess. Write it down and then let it go. There's also a lot of common pitfalls that we can avoid. Pitfall number 1, scrying too often. You can become ungrounded, anxious, or disconnected from reality. The solution is limit to once a week maximum as a beginner, and you want to give yourself space between sessions just so that you have that integration. Pitfall number 2, trying to force visions. You're straining to see something, and that will block your natural flow. You have to stay relaxed to stay and focused, not like an intense concentration. It's called gazing, not staring for a reason. It's called like crystal gazing, obsidian mirror gazing, not like this enforced staring where you're just like trying to control it and make it all happen. Pitfall number 3, fear spiraling. The problem, maybe you're seeing something scary and you let that fear take over. Remember, you're seeing symbols, not literal futures. Frightening images often represent internal fears, not external threats. Practice discernment. Not everything you see is a prophecy. Pitfall number 4, skipping protection. The problem, opening yourself without boundaries can attract unwanted energies. The solution, never skip protective practices, even when you're experienced. Think of it like locking your doors. You just always do it. You always put in your seatbelt when you get on in the car. Same deal. Pitfall number 5, scrying in poor mental health. Problem is you're in a dark place, and scrying can just amplify those negative thoughts. Wait until you're stable. Wait until you're grounded. If you have a history of psychosis or disassociation, consult a mental health professional before practicing scrying. Pitfall number 6, ignoring physical discomfort. Your problem might be that you have an eye strain or a headache or dizziness from your session going far too long. The solution is just start with shorter sessions, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. Take breaks. Don't push through pain. It's your body's signal of saying stop. And pitfall number 7, becoming dependent on scrying for every decision. Using divination to avoid personal responsibility or critical thinking. No, we're not doing that here. You want to balance your scrying with practical and real-world decision-making. It's a tool for insight, not replacement for your own wisdom. So when not to scry? When you are emotionally distraught or in crisis. Late at night, when you're exhausted. When you feel unsafe in your environment. During a severe depression or an anxiety episode. Or when you're desperate for a specific answer. Because that will cloud your judgment. Red flags. Stop immediately if you feel genuinely terrified or unsafe. You see disturbing, violent imagery repeatedly. You feel someone, something, or someone trying to take control. You dissociate or lose time. You have physical symptoms such as severe headache, nausea, or dizziness, or you feel obsessed or you can't stop thinking about scrying. Healthy scrying practices include regular sessions, but not excessive. You're protected and intentional. You're grounded before and after. You're integrated with other spiritual practices, and you live a life in the real world that's balanced. And you are journaling for patterns, and then you're not panicking when you're getting some messages that come through that are not always like sunshine and rainbows. Scrying is a tool for empowerment and insight. If it ever makes you feel disempowered, afraid, or ungrounded, take a step back and reassess your approach. Your well-being always comes first. So here are some best practices. If you want to build a sustainable practice, just start with 10 to 15 minute sessions. Maybe practice regularly, like every week, once a week for new beginners. You want to do it in the same place, at the same time, because that just helps build the energy. You'll want to keep a scrying journal. And sometimes the moon phases do matter because the full moon, of course, is going to be the most powerful. And trust your intuition over any rules. If something doesn't feel right, if something does feel right, whatever, just trust that. That's like one of the biggest points of doing these practices to begin with, to trust our intuition. Why would you use scrying? There are unique benefits of this divination form. It's personal and unmediated. There are no cards to interpret. There's no runes to cast. There is just pure connection between you and source. And it also helps develop your psychic awareness directly. It's flexible and intuitive. There's no wrong way to interpret. It works with your unique psychic language, and you can ask any question. It's also meditative and consciousness expanding. It builds trance skills and is useful in all magic. It quiets mental chatter. It accesses deeper consciousness. It's historically rich. It connects, you can connect with practitioners across centuries. The tools themselves carry lineage, energy, and you're part of an ancient tradition. It's also aesthetic and ritualistic. Beautiful tools enhance your practice. The ritual itself is transformative and it creates sacred space naturally. And why would you choose scrying over other types of divination? Well, you may when you need to feel a direct spiritual contact, when other methods feel too structured, when you want to develop psychic insight, when working with shadow self or subconscious, or when you need deep meditation combined with divination. Those would be all great reasons why you would choose scrying over other forms. So here we are. We've traveled through thousands of years of scrying history, from ancient Egyptian temples to John Dee's crystal ball in the British Museum. We've explored all the different tools you can use: crystal balls, obsidian mirrors, water bowls, flames. We've walked through exactly how to scry, what to expect, how to stay safe while you're doing it. And honestly, I'm sitting here feeling like I finally honored something I've been carrying with me since I started this podcast, this episode. Scrying, crystal balls, the ultimate big crystal energy. This was always meant to be part of Big Crystal Energy's story, and now it is. For me personally, this episode marks a commitment. I have my childhood crystal ball and my beautiful obsidian mirror, and they've been waiting patiently for me to step into this practice. No more just admiring them on the shelf. It's time to actually do the work, to sit with them, to gaze into their depths and see what they have to show me. And I have to tell you, I'm equal parts excited and nervous because scrying asks something of us, doesn't it? It asks us to sit in the liminal space, to be comfortable with the mystery, to trust what we see, even when it doesn't make logical sense. If you're feeling called to try scrying, whether it's your first time or you're coming back to a practice you've neglected, I want you to know that you don't need anything fancy to start. A bowl of water, a candle flame, a small mirror, that's enough. The tool is just a doorway. Your intuition, your willingness to look beyond the veil, that's what really matters. And look, it might take a few tries before anything happens. You might sit there the first time and think, I don't see anything. This isn't working. That's totally normal. This is a skill. And like any skill, it takes time and develops with practice. Be patient with yourself. Be curious. Trust the process. Okay, so just to bring it all home, scrying is ancient. It's powerful, and it's been practiced by everyone from Egyptian priests to Renaissance scholars. There are so many tools you can use, and none of them is better than another. It's about what resonates with you. The practice itself is about entering a trance state, softening your gaze, and allowing visions to come through. And always protect and ground yourself and honor your boundaries. Safety always. Safety first. I would love to hear about your scrying experiences, whether you're a complete beginner trying it for the first time after listening to this episode, or a seasoned practitioner with wild stories to share. I want to know, what did you see? What tool did you use? How did it feel? You can DM me on Instagram at mystical.mama.ash or at Big Crystal Energy Podcast, or drop a comment on this episode wherever you're listening to it. And if you have questions, send those too. You can post your questions on Spotify. You can send me a DM. I'm thinking about doing a listener question and answer episode on divination practices, and your questions could be featured. And speaking of connecting with the community, if you love this episode and you want more content like this, more deep dives into crystal magic, witchcraft practices, and the tools that may help us access our powers, hear how you can stay connected. First, make sure you're subscribed or following Big Crystal Energy wherever you listen to podcasts. That way you won't miss an episode, and it helps the show reach more people who are looking for exactly this kind of content. Second, if this episode resonated with you, please share it. Send it to your witchy friends. Post about it on social media. Tag me so I can see your thoughts. Word of mouth is genuinely the most powerful way this podcast grows, and every share means another person gets to discover their own big crystal energy. Because here's the thing, I'm not just making a podcast. I'm building something bigger, a community, a space where we can explore magic together, learn from each other, and reclaim these ancient practices in a way that feels authentic and empowering. And eventually, yes, I want to turn this into a sustainable business. Courses, workshops, retreats, resources that help you deepen your practice. But it all starts here with these conversations, with you listening, engaging, and being part of this journey. So let me leave you with this. The veil between worlds is thinner than we think. Sometimes all it takes is a quiet room, a reflective surface, and the courage to look into the unknown. What you see there might surprise you. It might challenge you. It might change everything. Your crystal ball is waiting. Your mirror is ready. The water bowl that is still and deep is ready to give you some answers. The question is, are you ready to look? This has been Big Crystal Energy. I'm Ashley, and I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, stay magical, stay curious, and trust your visions. Bye!
Thank you so much for jumping down the rabbit hole with me. If you connected with this episode in any way, I would love it if you could share it with a friend. Also, please tag me on social media. I'm at mystical.mama.ash or at Big Crystal Energy Podcast, mostly on Instagram. It helps so much getting my episodes out there and finding more magical, kooky, and spooky friends. Sending you all Big Crystal Energy. Cheers!